Masterclass on the lift-off.
I bet you didn't know ukuthi abashayeli by public transport are required by law to have a license from the South African Music Rights Organization, which we know as SAMRO, so that they can freely play music for their passengers as and when they feel like it. Let's find out why this is the case and also zoom into AMA guidelines of avoiding being someone who pirates music. Ubungazi wena ukuthi upha iyapirate. On the line I'm joined by Karabo, Senna. Yo, I've been practicing the surname. I hope I got it right, Karabo. Karabo is the general manager representing the sales and licensing department kwa SAMRO. Thank you so much for joining us, Karabo.
It's certainly a pleasure, and your pronunciation was on point.
You see, Zulus do try, Shem. We try. Can represent KZN. Karabo, let's get straight into it. I understand ukuthi uma abashayeli bezodlala umculo in the buses noma emateksini, they're required by law to have a license from SAMRO because basuke bedlala music for the public. Unpack for us what this means and also highlight mhlawumbe ukuthi this is music osuke uyidlala from which platform? CD? Is it online streaming platform? So talk us through that.
Yes. So the simplest way to unpack this is firstly to start from the law, right? So, okay, there are just two things I want to reference that makes me say what I'm going to say afterwards. Okay. And it's simply to say when you open up the Copyright Act, and you start off by Section 2, it simply tells you what type of things enjoy copyright. And music is one of them. All right. So I think people can broadly say that it's okay. Yes, music is something that, somebody created. So therefore, whenever you want to use it, you must sort of pay for it in some way or form. Then we go to the last part, which is Section 6, which tells you that what you need to do whenever you want to use somebody else's music. So it essentially says that you must go and seek permission, right? So permission, you could get it, yes, going to, let's say, the actual creators of music, but that's not practical. That is why organizations like SAMRO exist, because musicians then entrust us with their rights and they say, listen, go out there, make sure that whoever uses my music obtains permission from you. And obviously the exchange then becomes a licensing process where they license, they pay a certain amount and then from there on give them that particular permission to say you can use the music. Now, what is important is, and I like the way you structured the question to say, is it only music from, radio or CD or, from Spotify or whatever product you're using? It's actually all music. The moment you essentially are playing music for the public, meaning it's not private consumption, it's not, you with your family in your car. Okay. It is essentially you conducting a form of business. And that music is actually enhancing something in your business because otherwise then you would switch off the music and the car will just be quiet in a taxi or bus or even, anywhere else. And then that would not actually make sense. So that is why anytime legally you use music in public in a form of business where you enjoy the benefit, you need to actually get a license.
Sure. But Karabo, uma i-CD yomculo ngiyithengile ngemali yami. Uma i-album yomculo ngizoyilalela through a digital streaming platform that I pay a monthly subscription for. Why then do I further need to ask for a license to play this music? I-argument efana naleyo, is it not valid? Does it not hold any water?
No, it's valid up until you break part, right? And I understand that logic to say, no, I'm paying for this thing, so why should I come to you? The logic is simply this. The law cut out different rights when we come to copyright. So the one that you are talking about is essentially where somebody is purchasing this particular, music for personal consumption. You will notice as well that if in those old days where there was a seed leaf, there would be even limitations that would be put in there because you can't, for example, you could copy the CD but for personal use, but you would not be able, it doesn't give you all the rights that come with that music. So there is a right that is called, which is what SAMRO represents. We call it a performing right, and that is in the law. So what a performing right simply means is that anytime you are going to use that music in public, not for personal consumption, in public, where you are actually enjoying a personal benefit, be it from a business perspective, it could be a transport, it could be a festival. In that context, you need to make sure that you get, permission for that license. So there's different types of copyright. There's a performing right. Yeah. There's another one which we call a mechanical right. The mechanical right is for what we call a reproduction, especially if you're using music that is from, like your social, not just like DSPs, like your iTunes and Spotify, but that wouldn't really apply for the public sector in terms of transport. But the one that truly applies is a performing right, which is more for the writers of the music. And then the other one that we need to touch on is the needle time. Needle time is for those that sing the song. So I can write a song and I can get a Whitney Houston to sing the song. So SAMRO will pay me, and then another organization called SAMPRA will pay Whitney Houston. Yeah. So those two rights, unfortunately, or fortunately for artists, the law recognizes and says, anytime you use music for your benefit, and especially for a business, you need to make sure that you ask for permission, and the only way you can get that permission is from SAMRO, so that you are able then to use those rights legally.
So umuntu owner istolo odlala music for ama customer needs to obtain the license. Umuntu oshayela imoto ophatha ama passenger needs to obtain the license okhuluma ngayo. What does obtaining the license mean, Karabo? If I want to be on the right side of the law and I am a patriotic South African, I want ama artist ukuthi I receive all the funds that are due to them if I am enjoying music wabo publicly. What does me obtaining this license mean? So does it mean ukuthi ngizongithumela invoice as uSAMRO ukuthi sengikweleta leli artist because music walo ngidlale eTexini? Practically, what does it entail?
Yeah, so practically what we do, right, because we understand the product that we are trying to give to the market, it can be transactional. Now, we can't say today Udlaluzola, tomorrow Mandoza. We can't say that. So what we do, we package all the rights. So the packaging means even if Udlala Mhlambe, even an international artist, it's all packaged in. So we go out, we get permission from all the other international societies. We make sure that when we give you this license, so the simplest way for you to get a license basically is go to our website. It's www.samro.org.za, and then you go there as a user, or you can call us at 011-712-8000. And the easiest thing is once you contact us, we are able to give you permission to play all the music that you need to play. And the basis is that we don't want you sitting there and calculating, I played that. No, that's not how it works. So we make sure that it's easy for you, and at the end of the day, you get to enjoy your music, but the artist, like you rightfully said, get to also enjoy the benefit of that creation.
Sure. It is a bit of a mind-boggling one, I'm not going to lie, Karabo, but it's so eye-opening to have you on the line explaining this process to us so that we properly understand what we're talking about. Mangabis Kuluma, about obtaining a license from SAMRO so that you can play music in public spaces. This masterclass continues on the other side of Ulindo with Freddy Kwala Oksalaya. I know you love this one because you know it from TikTok. It's coming up next on The Liftoff. This is The Liftoff on Gagasi FM. We are in the middle of a masterclass namhlanje with Karabo Senna, who's the General Manager of Sales and Licensing kwa SAMRO. We're talking about the importance of acquiring a license from SAMRO so that you can freely play music for the public, whether ushayeli tegisi, ushayeli basi, even airlines need to acquire this license that we're talking about so that you're on the right side of the law and so that ama artist to get what is due to them. Karabo, mhlambe, how has the uptake of abantu who do play music for public consumption been? Abantu bayeza yini to SAMRO, or are they logging online kulama platforms or mentionile to apply and acquire this license?
Yes, we have seen, definite uptake, especially more focus on the busing sector. So that we have received. And obviously, like you've also mentioned, airlines, right? And the next one is also the train sort of sector. But obviously, where we want to see a more sort of like determined push, it's especially when we speak about taxis, our local taxis, which obviously are the biggest movers of people in the country.
Yeah.
So that is where we are literally trying to focus our efforts, because that's the area where we are not seeing like a significant uptake. We do have some there and there, but it's still very, very small. Yeah.
Umuntu Karabo angazibuza ukuthi if iCD senginayo and I am able to play it for ama passenger ami emotweni, what then would be the benefit of me applying for this license? Izongisiza ngani?
Yeah. So firstly, Angithi, the first thing that I think let's say, anyone who's interested in music needs to understand is that whenever you buy a CD, it's for personal consumption, right? It's never for broadcasting. But based on the fact that, we want to understand what is the benefit. The benefit is that we want to seek to professionalize as well the industry of transport, where transport operators, they consistently bid for business to companies and such, and what we are saying to them is to say, please try and differentiate yourself, because part of obviously doing business is being a good corporate citizen. So anytime you're able to show, another party that, hey, I am compliant. Even sometimes they not even be aware that such a license exists. But you are able to say, listen, in my business, I follow the letter of the law, and this is how compliant I am. And that also, assists in establishing trust. And obviously people look at you much more from a professional lens. And that's what we are trying to communicate, to say, these licenses are not expensive. We're not talking about thousands. We're talking about hundreds of rands, just, below 1,000 rands.
So the license?
Yes, and it's for a year. It's for a year. So you pay that and then you forget about it. You are able to play the music. But as you transact elsewhere, you are able to establish that sense of trust to say this person knows what they're doing. And that's what we want, transport owners and transport managers to understand.
Ngihlekiswa iWhatsApp esanda kungena la Karabo ithi kushuthi emateksini kuzohanjwa kuvunywa ingoma ama passenger azobe eculela ngoba akababoni o taxi driver or ama taxi owners applying for this license. Tell me Karabo, if I do play umculo for umphakathi and I don't have this license, does this essentially mean I am pirating music?
100%. So, sometimes legally they call it infringement, but I think the best way to say it so that people understand what we're talking about, it's music piracy. That's all that you're doing, because you are taking away from the artist which you like at the end of the day. You say, I like this artist, but you are taking away from them at the same time. So all we are saying is that, especially where, in our local taxis, I'm proud to say that they play majority local
music, yeah.
Which is why for us we are saying, guys, if you are able to pay this particular license, it will go a long way in making sure that the local music space is developed and money reaches the right hands. And that's all that we are asking for. And that will actually move us forward. And new music will be created, and artists will be much more sort of like positioned to obviously advance themselves. And that's what we want in this country.
Let's continue this conversation, Karabo. When we come back from Elaine with Risky, I want us to look at the consequences. Ukuthi uma kunomuntu ethi hayi ngizoqhubeka mina ngidlala isidingo ngidlalela umphakathi. Ubani ozongibopha. I want to talk about the possible consequences of continuing to play music for the public without having acquired this license that we're talking about from SAMRO. This is the final segment of e-masterclass on the lift off. You tune into your favorite frequency. It is Gagasi FM. We have been speaking to the general manager for sales and licensing kwa SAMRO. His name is Karabo, talking us through the importance of acquiring a license so that you can be able to play music for umphakathi while also abiding by the law. Karabo, umbuzo okhona la through the WhatsApp line again is as follows. Okay, iqala with the statement. uthi umbhali, RSA is full of jokes. I'm not going to seek that license, but I'll continue playing music in my car for my passengers. I think this may be the sentiment from a lot of people abaqalayo mhlambe ukuzwa about this license that we're speaking about. What are the consequences for abantu abafana naye umbhali wale statement ukuthi ngeke mina ngize ngithole leyo license but ngizoqhubeka? What are the consequences for pirating music that you have played for a public audience?
Yeah. So from a legal context, anytime your property, because music is a piece of property, that's what we need to look at it as. Mm-hmm. Anytime your property is used without the right process being followed, a legal process can be undertaken. So yes, obviously onto SAMRO, what we have to do firstly is that somebody infringed. So somebody used music and they didn't actually get a license. This is something that obviously we are working on, so that because we do what we call inspections. So we do inspections, and part of our inspections is to identify where music is used and then go forward and, obviously engage with those people. Mostly it starts off quite, cordial. Then we move over to much more legalistic processes. So the simplest answer is that SAMRO has the ability, one, to make sure that we follow a legal process. Two, is to also work with the South African Police Services to make sure that anybody that infringes does not necessarily have, or has the equipment to infringe. Because the problem would be that, yes, you've got that radio in your vehicle, but if you're a constant infringer, then we need to do something about that. But I think what I would like to firstly caution, it's the biggest problem is that sentiment. In South Africa, and as a South African, I want to just raise that we have, a notion where we want to drive lawlessness. However, when it affects you, then it's an issue.
Yeah.
But when it affects another, it's okay.
It's fine.
So that's the problem here. The underlying issue is the respect factor.
Yeah.
The fact that you want somebody to respect your business, your craft, because now we are understand
but
that.
You can't extend the same
but
courtesy.
You can't respect somebody else.
Yeah.
For me, that's often where we take the biggest contempt, to say, before we even get to our court at 999, to say, but firstly, let's deal with this thing. Why are you so resentful of what is right when it affects somebody else? But when it's you, things have to change. So that is the issue, because tomorrow, if, let's say, the transport sector, we know the biggest thing that affects the transport sector is, for example, petrol.
Yes.
If anything happens with petrol, and no, why? That, but music. So if you are willing to say, but guys, that thing is right, this thing is wrong, do the right thing across, because that's what business is about. That's what being a corporate citizen. As in South Africa, for our country to grow, we need to be patriotic. And being patriotic is respecting the laws. You don't choose the laws to say, I respect this one, I don't respect this one. So that's my sentiment. That's what I want to drive to the public, to say, this is not about us chasing you. It's about you.
It's not about making life difficult for you. We still want you to enjoy music. But we also want our artists to athole what is due to them for all the hard work that they put into this music that we enjoy. Here's a final one from WhatsApp. Karabo?
Yes.
Uzobona kanjani ukuthi awunayo wena ilicense le yalo music lo ukuthi udlala music eTexini bazokubona kanjani, or uzobanjwa ama traffic cop abese akubuza yona ukuthi usayinile whatever lo mnyango wabo lekusayina kona kuzokwenzeka kanjani? Because wayona le angi understand ukuthi why kumele kube njalo.
Okay, so how are you going to catch me out ukuthi lo mculo engudlalayo for the public? I am not licensed to do so.
For the most part, for us, it's through inspection. So when we register a vehicle, for example, we obviously register that vehicle with its number plate. So to find this vehicle has a license. Thereafter, it means that vehicle is able to play music. But I think from the caller's question, we don't necessarily use our traffic officials to necessarily check that. But for us, it's mostly through our efforts within SAMRO to do inspections and engage the owners of the vehicles that do not necessarily have a license, but they're obviously using music. So I think that's the easiest way of explaining it. But I think what we often try to drive, it's not the whole concept, because, again, I want to go back there to say, let us not have this mindset of saying, I will only do something if you catch me. And that's the wrong attitude. So the right attitude is to say, the same way, Uti, I like this song, or mhlambe you're speaking to Big Zulu, Uti, Big Zulu, when are you taking out your next album? Do you ever think that it costs money to do that? You know what I mean? Because for him, the approach is very simple. Is that, now I'm running a business. Yeah. And then you are playing my music there, but you're not on the right licenses. So make sure that you do that so that I can benefit as well. And trust me, it makes it easier for artists tomorrow to do well financially. Yeah. And that's what we want them to do. So I think for me, I want to plead with the public to say, public and mostly the transport sector, and say, understanding the law is critical, but also being patriotic and being focused on making sure that our artists receive the full benefit is the utmost importance. Yeah.
Let's wrap up, Karabo, by you giving us the basic process of ukuthola license. You have now convinced us, hopefully now as umshayeli public transport who plays music for your passengers, you've also been converted ukuthi ube on the right side of the music law in the country, and you want to get this license from SAMRO. What's the process of getting the license, and are there any T's and C's that we need to know?
Yes, so I think the main T&C here is the fact that a SAMRO license will allow you to play music for, in all music, so including international catalog, not just local music. That's one of the biggest ones. But the process to acquire the license, the easiest way would be either to call us on 011-712-8000, or if you choose, you can also go onto the website, which is www.samro, SAMRO is SAMRO.org.za, and you go under user because you are a user of music, and you can apply for that license. And like I said, the license often, it may think that it's a lot of money, in terms of, in comparison to how much your business is able to make, but we have priced it so that you are able to afford it. That, like I'm saying, it's below 1,000 rand for a normal taxi. So at the end of the day, you are able to facilitate that, and it's for an entire year. If we were to break it down to a month, it's below 100 rand. So it's less than even what you would pay for most things that are part of a business of running a transport. So we are asking the public as well as the transport sector to understand that this law didn't just come up today. It has been there.
It's a long-standing one.
A long time. At this point, more than 30 years, this law has actually been in existence. But just because people did not know about it, yes, they did not actually sort of abide to it, but we are now educating people so they know what is the right thing to do.
And that's why our platforms, Afana ne Masterclass on Gagasi FM, exist. The more knowledge we have, the better we can do as a people. Ungabi ngxenye zathu ama-artist ethu eshona engenawo ngisho uzuka. Let us please comply and be patriotic as Karabo is pleading with us to do so. Thank you so much for joining us. This really has been one of the most insightful masterclasses that I have hosted since the inception of this show. So we really do appreciate this.
Thank you, Nyabong.